Okay, let's get underway. So I thought with everything that's going on, it was worth taking a sort of collective pause, collective deep breath in, as I'm going to have to take now because I'm presenting this to all of you without my notes, unfortunately, but we'll get through it together, as they say. The recent crisis has meant that we've all been thrown into telemedicine, digital patient advocacy, that sort of thing, much quicker than maybe we would have expected, with not much time to sort of establish best practice and do training. So this is our opportunity to use the insights from thousands of PetsApp interactions to establish best practice. So I thought I'd start by, we'll go through and we'll look at the what, the why, and the how around telemedicine. And we'll use the insights from the thousands of interactions to inform that. So let's start by looking at what is telemedicine. So I did what every vet does when they're facing a very difficult issue, and what makes our heart sink when we hear pet owners have been doing it. I Googled it. And so it turns out tele comes from the Greek and it means far. It means something that's where you reach out over a distance, carried out between two remote points, or it's performed or operated through electronic transmission. The medicine, I mean, this is something that we should all be fairly familiar with, right? It's the science or practice of the diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease. And so telemedicine is the practice of diagnosis, treatment, and prevention of disease from afar. And this could happen by video consult, by text chat, or over the phone. And it should seem pretty familiar to most of us. My brother-in-law and his wonderful fiancée, Kyla, recently rescued a Labrador mix called Camden. And in the 4 months that they've had him, they've reached out to me 6 times, as well as going to the vet a couple of times in that time as well. And they've come to me for issues ranging from diet to a dry nose, sore paw, coughs and sneezes, alopecia. And yesterday they really tested me by reaching out and asking, can they give supplements to Camden to prevent lawn burn? Now, in these interactions, I'm not diagnosing, I'm not prescribing, I'm not treating disease. More often than not, I'm sort of providing reassurance, pointing them in the right direction, often towards their own local vet. So it's not telemedicine as such. The opportunity here is much broader than that. It's digital patient advocacy. But I suspect at your clinics, most of your clients are not your brother-in-law or your brother-in-law's fiance. So why bother with telemedicine? Why bother with digital patient advocacy? Well, there's this view promulgated by some very smart venture capitalists in Silicon Valley that software is eating the world. But pets are fundamentally physical beings. They need physical clinics to provide a joined up pet care experience. You can't upload Fluffy to the cloud, no matter how much he might look like one. No problem, you might say. Let's invent a pet robotic dinosaur, all singing, all dancing. He can see you through the infrared receiver, hear you through his binaural microphones, feel you tickling him on the chin through his chin touch sensor. He'll fall asleep as you rock him gently to sleep through his tilt and shake sensors. The best part is you don't need to walk him. He'll never get sick, and he certainly won't pee on your Anatolian rug. But how many of you have heard of Pleo? I'd be surprised if any of you actually had one. And yet over 50% of all households own a needy, sickness-prone defecation factory, also known as a pet. Turns out there's something intrinsic in picking up the feces of another species that we find therapeutic. And these experiences where the effort a customer invests into the experience generates some of the value intrinsic in the experience are not unique to the pet care sector. They're not unique to medicine. They crop up more often than you might think. Digitalization can be an incredibly powerful tool in reducing customer effort. But sometimes if you eliminate customer effort altogether, you eliminate the customer. Tough Mudder would not improve their ticket sales by rebranding themselves Easy Mudder, just as Pleo is no threat to pet ownership. And one area where there's effort and it's not value additive, it can be non-obvious, and we need to tease apart sort of where there's high effort experiences that are value erosive, where as opposed to high effort experiences that are value additive. And one of these high effort experiences that I hadn't thought about in the veterinary customer corridor is loading kids into car seats. And this came up a lot in our pet owner surveys. And I'm a vet, I've run clinics here in the UK and out in Asia, but I hadn't thought of this before. I jumped on Google again, I'm sorry, and searched for a stock image of loading a kid into a car seat. And this is the first result I got. It's a very happy scene, but it's not my personal experience. No worries, a couple of pages in, and I found this picture. This is much more like it. You got one kid in the car, one kid out the car, one kid neither in nor out the car, and a dog vomiting in the back. So when we're trying to tease out, okay, which parts of the experience are value additive, which parts of the experience just create customer effort and don't generate any value, a really good way to approach this is to map out the experience touch point by touch point along a customer corridor. And so I've done that for a generic veterinary visit here. You start off, you find a vet clinic as a pet owner. You book an appointment at that vet clinic. You get the pet to the vet, hopefully. And that's where the car seat comes in. When the pet owner arrives at the clinic, they're going to check in at reception. And then there might be a bit of waiting time in the waiting room. And then there's going to be the weight check and the nurse appointment, potentially. Then there's a vet consult, followed by next steps, which might be diagnostics, pharmacy. Then we're going to check out at reception, we pay, and there's going to be hopefully some sort of follow-up after the experience. And then whether you ask for it or not, whether you know about it or not, there's going to be some feedback left by the client. Now, there are clearly opportunities for digitalization here. You don't need to go as far as turning pets into robotic dinosaurs. You could have a website. You could allow people to book appointments via an online form, digital pharmacies. And we've made some progress on that in the pet care sector with SMS reminders, for example, and email. But fundamentally, the experience is pretty much the same for every owner, for every pet, regardless of the issue. And I've had pet owners go through all of that. I just want to stop and acknowledge, I'm seeing the live stream come through and you're telling me I'm live during my slightly panicked call to Phil. Sorry about that, everyone. Hopefully we're all right now. But I've had pet owners go through all of that because they thought they found a very worrying cancerous lump on their cat, rush in, go through all that effort just for me to tell them it's a nipple. But it's a male cat, they said. Yes, I said, subconsciously looking down at my own chest. I tried to sort of reassure them, reduce the embarrassment, but they were already trying to bundle the cat back into its basket. Helps if you reverse them in. So I've also had pet owners come in to see me far too late in the disease course. And me telling them it's too late isn't value additive to the pet care experience either. What if the real opportunity here is in digitally curating the pet care experience, allowing pet owners to delegate pet care decisions, a higher proportion of the pet care decisions, to the people best placed to help them make them? Ma Yun is the founder of Alibaba, the Chinese equivalent of Amazon and eBay. And he said the boundary between offline and online disappears as we focus on fulfilling the personalized needs of each customer. So we should travel from one single generic customer corridor for everyone to multiple corridors with tailored touch points, because playing Russian roulette with whether your pet needs to be seen by a vet is not value additive to the pet care experience. And that's what we're seeking to achieve with PetsApp. We believe that deployed correctly, technology can enhance the human-animal bond. We don't see virtual consultations, telemedicine, digital patient advocacy as anything like a replacement for physical veterinary clinics or the physical examination even. But there is a digitalization opportunity to reduce customer effort and allow pet owners to have a curated pet care experience that is most relevant and appropriate for their pet. And that's the goal here. That should be your goal as veterinary clinics too. So the Veterinary Innovation Council, just to back this up with a little bit of data, the Veterinary Innovation Council estimates that there are 24 pet issues per pet per year. And only 8% of those are currently addressed by veterinary expertise because of the effort, cost, availability, and stress to pet owners and pets in coming into the vet. 92% of all pet issues go unaddressed by the people best placed to address them. Think of Camden and Kyla. They've got no barriers in terms of accessing veterinary expertise. Anyone lucky enough to have the acquaintance of a veterinary professional is only a photo and a message away from some general advice. And you can see here in the 4 months that they've had Camden, just the 6 issues they've brought to me, excluding the veterinary visits that they've had in the meantime, would extrapolate to 18 pet issues being addressed per year. So we've gone from 2 to 18, from 8% to 75% of all pet issues. That's the opportunity here. And traditional veterinary clinics are pretty good at serving pet owners at point of need. If they need something doing to their pet, we're there for them and we can do it. But by lowering the effort barriers, the idea is that we can capture the issue when they first notice it or at point of curiosity. And remember, we're talking about curiosity versus critical issues, but this is as defined by the pet owner. And the issues sitting in that 92% that we don't currently see are non-trivial issues much of the time. I'll give you an example. There was an experienced pet owner. She had 3 dogs, and her newest dog, a golden retriever, had been needing to go out to the toilet 8 to 12 times a day. Now, that pet was clearly in discomfort, no doubt, but the owner's heuristic for accessing veterinary expertise was, is my dog in pain? And she didn't perceive it to be in pain. And she thought, I'm a dedicated pet owner. This pet is part of my family. If this dog needs to go out to the toilet 8 to 12 times a day, if that's just normal for her, then fine, I'll do that. But when her clinic started offering PetsApp, gave her this low effort route to accessing veterinary expertise, she jumped on, she started a conversation, and she was convinced that a trip to the vet could solve this issue. She goes to the vet, the UTI is diagnosed and treated, the dog gets better. The pet's life has improved, the pet owner's life has improved. She's no longer having to take that dog out to the toilet 8 to 12 times a day. And the veterinary team have had a patient advocacy opportunity that they otherwise might never have had. So we're expanding the total number of patient advocacy opportunities that we have access to. So we're getting there. We've covered the what, we've covered the why. How about the how? How do you do this? What does it look like? So I thought we'd go through a few patient journeys. Start with socially distanced veterinary care in the current context, in the context of COVID. Let's just cover that off first. So every interaction on PetsApp starts with an automated welcome message. Now, this is your opportunity to set client expectations. Here, this message just says, hey, how can we help? But what you want to use this message for is more than that. You want to give them average response times, opening times, tell them what you want them to use the app for, tell them what you don't want them to use it for, tell them what they should do in case of an emergency. If you don't have this opportunity to set expectations, which all too often you don't with a sort of one and done video consult, if you don't have that opportunity, you can set client expectations up here. And even if you end up delivering here, you've disappointed the client. Whereas if you manage expectations ahead of time, you set yourself up to wow the customer. Okay, so the issue you've decided based on whatever the local regulations are, that it justifies an appointment, a trip into the clinic. So you can use the text chat on the app to book an appointment. And maybe that's done by the reception team. So I've suggested who should do each thing in each role in your clinic. And I've just given a suggestion. You'll know who should do it. And whatever platform you're using should be flexible enough to adjust the operational reality of your veterinary clinic. I remember being very frustrated when I operated veterinary clinics that there's great software out there if only you changed the way you worked. Now, veterinary businesses are operationally complex enough that we don't need anything else adding operational complexity. We need flexibility in the software. Okay, so now you've booked the appointment, the owner's going to drop the pet off at the clinic, but first you're going to do a video admit consultation. You're not going to see that pet owner in the clinic, in the consultation room. You're going to do this remotely. And that's super simple to do. Next, you can send out the consent form via the text chat. You can actually send a PDF of the consent form through the text chat to the owner and get their consent. This works for blood test results, for estimates, that sort of thing too. Then you want to do a socially distanced drop-off. I've seen the judicious use of dog leash hooks and one in, one out policies, all that good stuff. Now, once the pet is in the clinic, you're going to want to keep the pet owner up to date with what's happening with their animal. And you can use the text chat to do this. As I've said, you can send through blood results, you can send through photos of the patient and the progress. You can just send messages to update them. And this has several really good consequences for the flow within a practice. So it frees up some of the reception time, because we're all very familiar with the games of phone tag, where the client calls in at reception, the reception goes up back to to talk to the person who can best give the update. Inevitably, that person is drawing blood from a fractious cat, and you go back to the owner as a receptionist and you say, look, I'll get them to call you later with an update. You leave a note, probably on a clipboard somewhere, and well, we all know how that goes. Instead, the relevant person at their leisure can be asynchronously updating the pet owner. You can be a bit more proactive. The other thing is, it's actually got great consequences for utility of the professional skills of the team. For example, I've seen some vets delegate the patient updates to their nursing team. Now, if they want to do this, they need to keep the nursing team very well clinically briefed, which increases the job satisfaction for the nurse while freeing up some veterinary time. It also means that the clients get to see all that great work that the nursing team are doing that they don't normally have exposure to, and it distributes the goodwill throughout the practice. So one really good example of this, among thousands, literally thousands, is a nurse was messaging a pet owner about a dog had recovered from surgery. And she said, look, he's recovered well, I'm just about to give him his lunch. And the pet owner replied, he loves chicken. And the nurse was able to immediately reply, I'm just cooking some for him now. And the next message, what was the next message? It's a photo of the nurse hand feeding that dog some chicken. She was going to do all of that anyway, but the client likely would never have known about it otherwise. Now the clients get to see this differentiated high level of care that they're offering. Okay. So here you can see in this example, I think I've a sip of tea. Here you can see in this example, the nurse has shared pre-anesthetic blood results with the owner, all fine. This is another good example of a good use case. All too often we recommend, say, pre-anesthetic blood results, and when they're normal, they get forgotten about and the owner never sees it. Well, that's a missed value communication opportunity for those blood results, right? And what do you think is going to happen to the owner's compliance the next time you recommend a blood test? It's going to go down. They're less likely to do it. It's amazing what a little bit of science on paper, even if it's all normal, can do to communicate the value of those results to the owner. And we all know they're super clinically important and valuable for the patient's health and well-being. Okay, so next you want to take payment. And cash is a bit of a no-no right now. You don't want to be handling cash. And you also want to reduce sort of waiting times and flow through reception. So if you can, you want to take a digital payment. There's some sort of client resistance sometimes, and it's not the ideal to take payment over the phone. That is another option. and plenty of practices are doing that. And so the thing you want to look at with the digital payment is you want to be able to take payments for anything and everything. You want to be able to do click and collect ordering of parasiticides, prescription refills, prescription diets. You want to be able to charge for in-clinic procedures, as well as your telemedicine consultations. And so you want to look at the payment charges on any platform that you use. We use a Stripe integration, works really well, allows credit card and debit cards to be used, Apple Pay, Google Pay, depending on the device, super easy, what the owners are used to. And the fees there, for the Stripe fees are 1.4% plus 20p per transaction. And you can see here, I've just flagged up that the ATV on PetsApp sort of varies between 50 to 60 quid. So decent revenue is going through there. And we're processing thousands of transactions each week on behalf of veterinary clinics. Next, you want to do the video discharge consultation. And the example you're seeing here, the vet is using the desktop dashboard rather than the mobile app to do the video discharge with the owner. And this is a really compelling thing to do, even when we get back to the, whatever the new normal might be, because typically the discharge consultation is bundled with the cost of the procedure, right? It's a free, that you don't charge for the discharge consultation in and of itself, but it's competing for paid consults at that peak time, adding to the stress on the veterinary team. Well, it's completely uncontroversial to do a video discharge consultation because you've got the pet in the clinic with you. And most owners can take the 7 minutes that it takes to do the discharge consultation out of the day to at an earlier time, let's say 3 p.m., non-peak time. And so that's a really good opportunity to improve capacity utilization. When we suggested this to clinics, what I meant was a live video discharge consultation. So do it live, like this is. But what we've seen practices actually evolve onto doing is recording the video discharge instructions and posting them in the chat so the owner has access to them. So if you're sending a cat home with tablets, you can record in the video discharge consultation how to tablet a cat, and they have access to that. Or you can send them a YouTube link to how to tablet a cat. And now people say, and this was my first objection, well, what if the owner has questions? Well, the beauty of it is you've got this text chat backbone to the video consultation platform, so they can ask questions asynchronously, even if you do it like that. Next, as you end the chat, you probably want to forward book your text chat follow-up. So you can actually schedule a notification through to the pet owner, through to yourself, to just check in how they're doing, ask them for a picture of the surgical wound, ask them how the treatment plan is going. And then they fall into the ongoing push notification cascade. And this is the thing. If you're using an app-based solution, you can now use push notifications to communicate with the owner. SMS text messages, super effective, but they cost money. Push notifications, effectively free. And then we collect feedback. Okay, so the next customer journey I want to take you on is a video consultation. What does that look like? Well, it starts again with the automated message, the welcome message, setting expectations for the customer experience. And then the pet owner comes through with a text chat query. That lets the person on the reception team to initially work out, how should this best be handled? Let's say they decide that it's a clinical issue that needs to be handled by a veterinary professional, either a vet or a nurse can do the initial history collection as you deem appropriate. And here the key is a really top tip. So we've not entered the video consult yet, right? We're just doing the text chat back and forth at this point. And if you're not sure what to ask next in this situation, really good thing to do is ask for photos or videos of the pet. And that way, it gets the conversation going, it gives you a bit of a better view, and it means that whoever is doing the video consult comes in preloaded with an opportunity. At the current moment in time, I think there's unhelpful emphasis on live video consultations. And I say that as a platform that offers live video consultations as part of the product. In fact, when we started 2 years ago, our platform just did video consultations. But I think it puts a lot of pressure in that 7 minutes live on the pet owner, on the pet, and on the vet. Now, pets aren't going to perform in that 7 minutes on camera and show all the clinical signs that triggered the video consult in the first place. So if you can collect some of that information ahead of time, if you can collect that photo, if you can collect the video asynchronously, you'll actually improve the value offering of the video consult. And the video consult can be quite useful as a distinct value communication point that you can charge for. And so here they've taken the videos, they've asked for photos, videos, they've got a history, and they've recommended a video consult. Next, you want to schedule that video consult and take payment. Take payment before the video consultation happens. This increases the social contract for the pet owner to turn up. You're less likely to get any no-shows coming through if they've already paid. And you've made that payment super easy, so there's no problems there. Also means the owner is less likely to sort of say that they didn't realize that this was going to be a paid consultation after the fact. So schedule the video consult and take payment. In this clinic, they're using a receptionist to do that. You could have the vet or the nurse who initially triaged the issue and recommended the video consult do that, whatever's appropriate for your practice. The other thing to say is on PetsApp, we put a little flag on the record saying that they're a Pet Health Club member or not a Pet Health Club member. And this is because several practices are using access to telemedicine to drive penetration of their Pet Health Club membership. So Pet Health Club members get access to, let's say, unlimited video consults and text chat, or a certain number of video consults. And a good way to do that, thing about that, is just reflect what's in your current Pet Health Club. If they get 2 consultations on there, maybe you give them access to 2 video consults. If you're one of these practices doing unlimited consultations in your Pet Health Club, go with unlimited video consults. Okay, then it's the video consultation itself. And as I've said, the average duration of the video consult on PetsApp, and I think more broadly, whatever platform you're using, I think 7 minutes is about right. And this question of duration is something that people get a little bit nervous about. Will the video chat just go on and on and on? Will the video consult ever come to a distinct end? And I think it's pretty similar to in a standard consultation. Without really knowing it most of the time, you're automatically doing sort of cues to bring a consultation to the end. So the tone of your voice might change. You might start talking about next steps a bit more. If you're sitting, you might stand up. For those really owners that really aren't getting the hint, you might walk to the door and open it for them, that sort of thing. So think about the virtual equivalent. It might be communicating next steps. So it might be, okay, Mrs. Jones, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to write up a little summary of our video consult today. I'll post that into the text chat for you, and I'll schedule a follow-up for us so that we can check in on how Fluffy is doing. And that communication of next steps should bring the consultation to an end. So bye now, Mrs. Jones, that kind of thing. And if you're really struggling, sorry, Mr. Jones, my battery's on 1%. It's got to go. You could do that sort of thing. Not ideal, but seriously, you do always have a hang up button, which you don't have in the real world, right? So I think if anything, it's a bit easier. Also, it's about depressurizing the video consultation. The fact that you do have that text chat backbone and the owner knows they could ask a question, you do have the effort, opportunity to hand off to another member of the team so that the experience isn't coming to an abrupt end. That is helpful, both for the pet owner and for you. It's reassuring for you, right? If you've forgotten a differential or you forgot to ask a question, you can continue the consultation on the text chat as needed. And so I just want to take a pause in the customer journey there and talk about what some of the data from the video consultations that we've had so far. In terms of caseload, you'll see what you see ordinarily in first opinion practice in your practice. So a lot of skin cases, GI, urinary, that sort of stuff. We talked about the average video consultation length. In terms of outcomes, COVID has skewed this data a little bit, but pre-COVID, a video consult was likely to lead to 10% likelihood of leading to an emergency visit to the vet, to the clinic, 50% chance of a non-urgent visit to the clinic, and a 40% chance of it being resolved by the video consult. And really, pet owners, what they're really looking to have answered when they engage in this is, how urgently do I need to come in? That's their number one question. Now, in terms of the clients that you'll see, excuse me, you're seeing anyone and everyone right now. They're engaging, everyone is engaging with technology to get stuff done that they don't normally get done another way. But when we surveyed pet owners, we found that the vast majority of pets have more than one owner. But in clinics, you're much more likely to see female owners, women bring in the pet to the vet. Whereas on PetsApp, you're relatively more likely to see the male owner than versus in clinic. And so there's some evidence that you're unlocking another pet care stakeholder, right? So you've got two pairs of eyes on those pet issues to sort of surface them to you and give you those patient advocacy opportunities rather than just the one. All generations are engaging with video technology these days. So I don't want to stereotype, but slightly more likely to be someone from the millennial generation. And it's interesting, right? Because millennials are now the largest pet owning demographic. There's evidence that they're the most compliant pet owning demographic, more likely to comply with dental recommendations, for example. But they're also, the majority of millennials describe veterinary care, veterinary services as relatively inaccessible, whereas baby boomers, the majority of baby boomers say veterinary care is perfectly accessible. Yeah, we're talking under normal circumstances, right? So you've got this large population of highly compliant pet owners that think our services are inaccessible. That sounds like a challenge and an opportunity. And the evidence is that telemedicine, digital patient advocacy, PetsApp specifically, that's the platform I obviously know best and have the data for, solves this and unlocks this opportunity. And remember, that's improving the lives of the pets that those millennial pet owners are owning. Okay, so next, during that video consult, you may have recommended some products. It might be a re-prescription, it might be the parasiticide, it might be a toothbrush. I don't know, whatever it is, you're going to need to take payment so that you can deliver those items, or the owner can come in and collect them, however you've got that set up. But you've already taken payment, because I said take payment when you schedule the video consult. Isn't that like introducing customer effort? Isn't the owner going to sort of resent having to pay again? Well, it depends how you've done your payment, right? If you've made payment a super laborious process, really difficult, then yeah. But on PetsApp, with the Stripe integration that we have, with Apple Pay, with Google Pay, with the stored credit card, securely stored credit card, debit card details, once an owner's paid once, super easy to pay again. And so it's frictionless. So pet owners don't mind having to pay after the consult as well for whatever products that they're going to get access to. And again, just as for the last time, you want to forward book your text chat follow-up, make sure you and the owner both get pinged a reminder to check in on it. And then obviously at some point, the client's going to collect the product or receive the delivery of the products you've recommended. And at the end of every interaction, we collect feedback, and we'll talk about a bit more about that shortly. Okay, another sip of tea, I think. Right. So now I talked about the sort of unhelpful emphasis on video consultation and how that puts pressure on the pet to perform during the video consultation, and on the pet owner, you know, get the angle right, the lighting's not good, I can't hear because you got the dishwasher on. And there are things you can do to solve that. I should have said on this slide that before the video consultation with the text chat, you can message the owner with some guidance on what makes for a good video consultation. So make sure they've got their phone charged, make sure they've got access to a Wi-Fi signal, make sure they are away from any stuff at home like the dishwasher or washing machine that would be making loud noises. Make sure you've got the pet in the room with you. Otherwise, you'll be taken on a tour of the owner's house and on the sort of under the bed search for the cat, and nobody wants that. But there is an opportunity to sort of move away a little bit from video consults in every case. Because again, we don't want to just shunt pet owners down the same customer corridor regardless of what's most appropriate, right? We're trying to digitally curate the most appropriate pet care experience in the context of the issue they're facing. And often you can do just as good a job, if not a better job, asynchronously addressing these issues via text chat. So think about getting a video of the block cat's home environment. Obviously you deal with emergency and then you ask for the video, but imagine that. Imagine seeing you've got a lame dog and they're anxious and nervous and a bit aggressive in the clinic. Imagine seeing them walk up in their home environment when they're more relaxed, and how that's going to improve your diagnostic capacity. You get to see a photo of the particular excretion that the pet owner is worried about. You get to see a photo of the ingredients list of whatever Buster has eaten this time. That sort of thing is what makes this powerful and can augment your efforts. Again, it's in the longer term, this is not a like-for-like replacement of in-clinic visits. It should augment, it should be another tool in your toolkit. If we were talking about ultrasound right now, and I said, look, I've got this wonderful new technology, it's called ultrasound, and it can diagnose and cure everything. you'd laugh me off YouTube if you haven't done already, given the start of the broadcast. But if I said to you, look, ultrasound is a useful tool in certain circumstances to make certain diagnoses, and the more you use it, the more powerful that tool is going to become in your hands. That's the same. It's equivalent with telemedicine, I think. So what we're doing here is we're going to start with the same automated message. There's going to be the initial validation of the text chat query, you know, how should this best be handled? And then can we monetize this? If we don't have this discrete value proposition of a video consult or an in-clinic visit, can you monetize it? Well, you're generating value for the pet owner. So I think you're perfectly justified in taking some proportion of that value you're generating and payment for the professional services you're providing. And how some clinics have done this is they give a period of time, they charge for a period of time where they get unlimited, the pet owner has unlimited text chat access to the veterinary team. And that unlimited access bit is where some people get nervous, but you're talking for your average chat, you're talking 6 messages and a photo. So you're not inundated, and it is asynchronous, and you can prioritize the workflow better. So I think I've just thrown that up there because I think there's a real opportunity that's often overlooked. Okay, so what I want to do now, if I can, is just jump to a video. Hopefully everyone can see that. I'll soon see if you can't. And what we're going to do is I'm going to take you through an example of an online to offline interaction between the clinic and the owner. And so it's going to be a joined up customer corridor. And I'm just waiting to see if that comes through on the live stream. Yes, okay, perfect. So we're going to play this now. And what we're talking about here is a pet owner that already has PetsApp. And they're sitting at home, they're with their family, and just bear in mind, sorry, that this is a really important disclaimer. This video was made pre-COVID. We've been doing this for 2 years. So this is around a preventive dentistry campaign, and that's not super relevant to right now, right? That's not a good use of PE, oxygen, and we're not driving that now. But hopefully it's still instructive, and you can think about how to apply it to the current context in terms of your patient advocacy efforts, and in the future, we're going to need to do dentals again in the future. So let's go with it. And so they send this campaign through push notification. The clinic sends this campaign through saying, send us a picture of Daisy's smile. Did you know 80% of adult dogs suffer from dental disease? And they're clicking that notification. They get taken into the chat where they can share a photo. They can take a new photo, or they can share an existing photo. And so they've shared a picture of their pet's mouth. And the idea here is not, again, we're not trying to replace the in-clinic visit. We're not trying to diagnose off the basis of a photo of the certainly not of the pet owner's mouth. You're not trying to diagnose off the basis of this photo. You're trying to engage the pet owner in a patient advocacy opportunity for that pet that you might not otherwise have had. And this is the thing, we talk a lot about all these compliance gaps that pet owners aren't sort of complying with a very large proportion of our veterinary recommendations. But we kind of set ourselves up to fail, right? You've got one visit probably in the year of 10 minutes where you've got to advocate for everything that pet could need for the rest of the year, because you don't know when you're going to see them again. And the pet owner is not particularly well placed to actually hear the recommendations, even if you have the time to make them, because they've got their own issue that's brought them into the vet in the first place. Well, how about if you could split up those advocacy opportunities and distribute them throughout the year? Would that make your recommendations more likely for the owner to be able to go along with, more open to listening to? Because you've got to think about from the pet owner's perspective, just having a whole load of information thrown at them, it's hard to know what to prioritize, what to do now. If you can contextualize these insights and present them to them at a time when they're going to be ready to engage with them, I think that's very powerful. So this pet owner has, and this triggers a notification through to the clinical team. And for this campaign, they're notifying people in the nursing role, in the nurse role of these inbound chats. And so the nurse can click on that notification and they can have a look at the photo and review this chat. And at this point, the pet owner doesn't know that the chat's been read. There's no, again, in WhatsApp, you get a read receipt. We don't do that because we don't want to mismanage client expectations. You might be reviewing the chat, but you might not be able to get to it for a good 10 minutes, or you might be actually prioritizing chats. And you might be saying, hey, this is a preventive dentistry chat. I'm going to deprioritize that and instead do this chat where the person said, you know, Fluffy's just not right today. And that's unlike the phone call, right? We train everyone to prioritize the phone because who knows what that animal needs on the other end of it. But that disrupts the service interaction with the client in front of you, and often it results in the person on the phone being put on hold. So using something like this allows you to prioritize your own work streams a lot better. Okay, so this nurse is reviewing the photo and the chat, and they feel comfortable having a chat about dental advocacy. If they didn't, they could just leave it in the nurse queue for someone else to pick up, or they could accept it, assign it to themselves, and then hand it off to someone that they knew would be comfortable having that conversation. So this nurse is perfectly comfortable talking about dentistry, and she's checked the records, and Daisy's never had a dental before, and in line with their clinic's recommendations, that she's going to recommend a dental checkup. Again, we're just going through a worked example. Please apply it to your own policies and procedures and protocols. The owner here complies with that recommendation, and they book the consultation. So they've arranged it for 9:30 a.m. And great part here is the nurse can also give instructions on withholding food on the morning of the procedure, for example. So then this is the online to offline aspect of the interaction, where the owner is now coming in to drop the pet off for the procedure that needs to be done in person, right? Obviously, in the current context, you don't want two people sitting in your waiting room. Ideally, you're doing some kind of contactless handoff, one in, one out. This, the good stuff that we talked about before when we addressed the socially distanced veterinary care. And then the pet owner is going to get on with their lives, which in this case just so happens to be baking some cookies, because why not, frankly. And then they get a message from the vet clinic, and it's the nurse, and the nurse is saying, look, the pre-anesthetic blood results were all fine, and they're sharing those pre-anesthetic blood results so the owner can see for themselves. Sure, it looks like they did something there, that's great. And then importantly, the nurse is scheduling the video discharge consultation, and that's for 3 p.m. today, again at that non-peak time. And the owner's cool with that. So that's great. They're going to speak later. Okay, so we're back in the clinic, and the nurse has done their bit. And so now they could request payment for the procedure at some point along this time. So you could get paid ahead of time, ahead of pickup, rather than having that sort of bottleneck in your workflow. But we're not going to show that. We're not going to do that in this case. They're going to hand off to the vet for the video discharge consultation later. So they hand off, and this chat disappears from their queue and goes into the vet's queue, and the procedure gets done. And here the vet is using the desktop dashboard to check in with the owner at the time for the video consultation. Are you ready for the video consult? And again, the nice thing here is if you've had an emergency come in or whatever it is and you're running behind, someone can jump on the text chat and just let the owner know, hey, we're running behind. And guess what? They're not sat in your waiting room doing nothing and having their day sort of obstructed by your delay. They're at home or at work getting on with their life while you sort of contact them in 20 minutes. So again, it's an improved pet owner experience. So the owner is ready and they do the call, and you can see that call works just as well on the dashboard there as it does on the app. And that dog's not seizuring, it's just a sped up video. And then at the end of the interaction, we're going to ask for feedback. Okay, so that gives you a sort of a customer corridor with this online to offline piece, with the technology digitally augmenting rather than replacing the in-clinic experience. And I'm just going to wait for this next shot, because if you look really closely, that dog actually still needs a dental. It's just stock footage. Okay, so as you saw at the end of that video, we collect customer feedback at the end of each interaction. And the methodology we use is something called customer effort score. And the biggest insight here is that pet owners love this. They give it an average rating of 4.7 out of 5. And the question is, basically, to what extent do you agree we made it easy for you to handle your issue today? And they say strongly agree to strongly disagree. And that's we do it on this 5-point ranking. And actually, a really good thing to do with customer effort score is to actually map out because you might have, I've deployed this in clinics, and you sometimes find that your dog owners find it super easy, but your cat owners don't like the experience and they find it super stressful and high effort. And so that's an interesting thing to do. And this collecting feedback is very helpful for us in designing the best product for you guys, but it's also helpful for you guys in working towards, what does best practice look like? No one has all the answers yet. This is new, and that's exciting. We've got the opportunity to establish best practice. And just a sort of humble brag, we have over 1,000 App Store reviews with over 1,100 now, with an average rating of 4.9 out of 5. And the reason it's a humble brag, not just a brag, is they more often than not mention you guys, not us, and they're super grateful for what you guys are doing to maintain your patient advocacy efforts. Okay, so we talked about effort from the pet owner's perspective, but we should also be careful not to make things too hard for ourselves. Our friend Ma Yun, who I mentioned earlier, disagrees with Thomas Edison. Thomas Edison said that genius is 99% perspiration, hard work, and 1% inspiration, whereas Ma Yun says lazy people create history. And they do this by finding the lowest effort way, the easiest way to do each thing, so that people are actually going to do it. So people are actually going to engage. And we should take this lesson. We shouldn't make telemedicine, digital patient advocacy, any harder for ourselves than it has to be. We should understand that it's nuanced. We should understand that it's not the same, and we should be pragmatic about where there are differences and how we're going to address those differences. But as far as possible, we should look at existing processes and procedures and look at how they can best be replicated in the virtual environment. But that's not always easy. For example, again, pre-COVID, there was a study that showed with a GP consultation, if the doctor touched the patient on the shoulder, the patient's perceived length of time with the doctor doubled. So the patient felt like they were getting more of the doctor's time just from the simple gesture of the doctor sort of empathetically touching them on the shoulder. What's the virtual equivalent of that? It's non-obvious, right? But that's where your feedback comes in. So one of the early pieces of feedback we had was that on the app, pet owners were using emojis to in their chat messages. And on the PetsApp app for the vets, nurses, and receptionists, there are some emojis too. But in the desktop dashboard, we didn't have emojis. And a nurse reached out to us and she said, look, it feels a little judgmental or like overly formal if I reply to an owner that's used emojis without using them myself. And so what did we do? We added an emoji picker to the desktop dashboard. And, is a thumbs up and a paw print emoji the same as a touch on the shoulder? I don't know. I'm not sure we're there yet, but it's by taking this feedback on board and iterating on it that we're going to get there. And so I want to leave you with a quote from Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon, which I think speaks to all this pretty well. One thing I love about customers is that they're divinely discontent. Their expectations are never static. They go up. It's human nature. We didn't ascend from our hunter-gatherer days by being satisfied. People will have a voracious appetite for a better way, and yesterday's wow quickly becomes today's ordinary. It's my hope that by deploying telemedicine, digital patient advocacy, your clinics, your clinical teams will be able to capture tomorrow's wow. And so my contact details are here. I've got the YouTube stream here. Sorry about the technical difficulties at the start. If you go to petsapp.com/vets, you can book a demo. The other thing to definitely mention before I jump into some of the questions is that we have this 3-month free trial that Bayer are supporting practices with. So Bayer are willing to support practices with a 3-month free trial of PetsApp. And the way you can access that is you can jump on petsapp.com/Bayer or email bayer@petsapp.com or contact your Bayer VBM. So thank you, Mark, for letting me know that I was live as I was panicking about my lack of notes. Turns out we sort of got through without them. Okay, let me see if there's any questions. Can you run it as an independent vet and not have out of hours cover? We're a platform for veterinary clinics. We firmly believe that veterinary clinics sit at the heart of the pet care experience. So this is for existing veterinary clinics to use to augment their current offering. There are other products which are direct to consumer, and that there's limitations on what they can offer because they don't have this ability to assume duty of care. And really, we're here to help veterinary clinics embrace digital transformation opportunities and resist disruption. So it's about existing veterinary clinics. Just wanting to find out if other veterinary practices are also using PetsApp like us, and if so, how is everyone finding it? We currently have about just over 100 clinics using PetsApp. In terms of how they're finding it, I'll let others answer that. But we've been really happy with the engagement from the veterinary teams and from the pet owners. And we didn't build PetsApp for the current situation. We're super glad it's helping. It's helping protect human health, pet health. It's helping protect jobs. But we see this as a long-term opportunity, and not just the current crisis. And in some ways, as I've said, the current situation sort of creates an overemphasis on sort of a like-for-like replacement of the physical consultation, which I don't think is the long-term opportunity. Okay. This sounds like a near perfect solution. This is Arthur to our present problems, but to a technophobe, it seems like the worst nightmare imaginable. That's a very vivid nightmare, but no, I would say jump on a demo, go to petsapp.com/vets, book a demo. You can book that straight into a calendar and we'll take you through it. I mean, we're doing implementations of PetsApp within 24 hours. It is, and I know I would say this, it is intuitive. You can pretty quickly get up and running with this. And it just by not overly exceptionalizing, yes, understand this is different. Yes, understand the limitations of these tools, but just try and look to what do you do currently and what's the closest approximation. Okay, so in terms of practice management system integration, we have currently built it to work in parallel to your practice management system. So you'll be booking your appointments in your practice management system. You'll be registering the payments you receive through your practice management system. We really want your practice management system to be protected as the central source of truth for you guys. But it works really well in parallel. You can download the PDF transcripts and you can upload them. And we are in discussions and working on various integrations to improve the product features. And some of the opportunities there are kind of non-obvious. One that I'm really excited by is, I know when I was working as a vet, I prescribed, I don't know how many tablets to cat owners. And I was slightly ashamed to say, I only showed a tiny, tiny proportion of those cat owners how to tablet their cat. And I wonder what proportion of those tablets actually made it into the cat. And that's quite a serious issue, because the owner's paid for something that they're not getting use out of. They're not going to get the refill, that's for sure. The cat's not getting the benefit of the treatment that I really wanted them to have. Now, if we had an integration that told us, that where we knew every time you were prescribing tablets to a cat and you wanted to set it up so it sent a notification out to that owner with a video of how to tablet cats, that would be really smart. And you can do that currently, but it's more manual. So those kinds of automations are things that we're really excited about and looking at. And the key here is this work is never done. This is not a product that is ever going to be finished. We're always going to be looking for ways to help enhance and improve your ability to advocate for the patients under your care. Okay, take a couple more of these. This is also great for those clients who love to have a random chat with you, even if you're behind in consultations. This is true. Yes, if you reduce the barriers to accessing your expertise, then people are going to have a lower threshold for reaching out. But what I would say is, in general, pet owners are very respectful of veterinary time. And I know we see the ones that come in every day and almost like they're sort of accessing us for some company. But when we first beta tested a video consultation platform about 18 months ago, it just had the video consult. We saw some very strange behaviors. Pet owners would pay for the video consult, click the button that we thought was the magical button, was going to connect them straight to a vet, and then hang up. And we interviewed these pet owners and we said, why did you hang up? You're just about to speak to a vet. They said, look, I wasn't sure that my issue justified bothering a vet with. I didn't realize I was just going to be put straight through to a vet. And then I sort of reflected on this. I thought, yes, when I was operating practices, all too often, and when I was working as a vet, all too often, you've got the veterinary consult, you get to the end, you say, anything else I can help you with? Any other questions for me today? And the pet owner says, no, doc, that's all great, thank you. They leave, they go through to reception, and then they ask the receptionist everything that they should have just asked the vet. And at that point, try as the receptionist might, it's very hard to create the veterinary recommendations necessary to serve the best interests of that animal, right? And so we were seeing that behavior again repeated online. So that's where introducing other members of the veterinary team, reception, nurses, vets, and you've got a broader funnel of issues coming in. And remember, this isn't a phone call. You don't have to jump on it right away. If it's low, if it's not high urgency, then you can deprioritize it. The average response time, I think, is something like 30 minutes on PetsApp. People aren't expecting an immediate reply. If you have an emergency, an urgent case coming in, then prioritize it. And again, in that welcome message, you can give owners advice on what to do in an emergency. You can ask them to follow a different route if you're not going to have someone monitoring PetsApp all the time. Another piece of advice that I would give, sort of related to that, is on some platforms and some tools that the clinics use, they turn them off once they're closed. Now, I would really recommend you don't do that, not on PetsApp at least. So in your welcome message, set your opening hours, let them know the times that they're going to get a response, but allow them to message you outside of those hours, because owners won't expect a response. If you tell them not to expect a response, they won't expect a response. But what they will want to do is offload items from their to-do list onto the clinic's to-do list. And they're fine for you to get them back to them tomorrow. But it might be that they've just got in and they have realized that they've run out of the prescription diet for their dog. And they want to just, as soon as that's front of mind for them, just put a message on PetsApp to the clinic, and they can, in the morning, that can be processed as a click and collect order or click and delivery order of that pet food. And if you don't do that, if you don't give them that outlet, guess what? The next time that issue comes to mind, they might be in the supermarket. They might buy whatever pet food they can get there. They might be browsing online. They might buy the pet food on there. And you've lost the opportunity to fulfill that veterinary recommendation, which was only made because that is very much what's in the best interest of that pet. Okay. And then we have a question here, is PetsApp available worldwide? So currently we're only in the UK, but we've done the internationalization work to make PetsApp available elsewhere in the world. So if you are interested in deploying PetsApp elsewhere, that's certainly something we can do. You can email me hello@petsapp.com or Thom@petsapp.com, THOM @petsapp.com. I think we've covered most of it. And Joe says, we have been using PetsApp for just over a month, and we are really pleased with how it is working. Really simple to use, and the team at PetsApp have been great. Thanks, Joe. That's a lovely testimonial. Kate says, loving it. The payment bit is so easy, and PMS integration would be awesome. Yeah, great feedback. And as I said, that feedback is so important, so please keep it coming. I'm going to end the torture for me now. The spotlight of interrogation can descend, and we can all get on with our evenings. I appreciate you guys joining me for this. I'm sorry for my slight panic at the beginning. I had planned to have notes as I went through this, because I had some really good data for you that I wanted to share. But maybe we can follow up with that after with a link to the recording, maybe slightly edited recording, with some of those more detailed stats that I may not have remembered. Cheers, everyone. Have a good one. Bye now.